I just for a thumbnail. Hey, look, salutations, my nigga. I don't just be reading from the Perfumed Garden, and this is your little excerpt. So there's a story that once there lived a king named Mamun, who had a court full of the name Bahloul, who amused the princes and viziers. One day, this buffoon appeared before the king, who was amusing himself. The king bade him to sit down, and then asked him, turning away, "Why hast thou come, O son of a bad woman?" And Bahloul answered, "I have come to see what has come to our Lord, whom may God make victorious." "And what has come to thee?" replied the king. "And how art thou getting on with thy new and with thy old wife?" For Bahloul, not content with one wife, had married a second one. "I am not happy," he answered, "neither with the old one, nor with the new one. And moreover, poverty overpowers me." The king said, "Can you recite any verses on this subject?" The buffoon having answered in the affirmative, Mamun commanded him to recite those he knew, and Bahloul began as follows. "Poverty holds me in chains, misery torments me. I am being scourged with all misfortunes. Ill luck has cast me in trouble and peril, and has drawn upon me the contempt of man. God does not favor a poverty like mine, that is opprobrious in everyone's eyes. Misfortune and misery for a long time have held me tightly, and no doubt of it. My dwelling house will soon not know me more." Mamun said to him, "Where are you going to?" He replied, "To God and his prophets, O Prince of the believers." "That is well," said the king. "Those who take refuge in God and his prophets, and then in us, will be made welcome. But can you now tell me more of your verses about your two wives and about what comes to pass with them?" "Certainly," said Bahloul. "Then let us hear what you have to say." Oh, my bad, Mo. Let me close this jump. Cue. Not that one. I just be checking a little level or whatever. I'll make me tiny, like my tiny ass chain. Bahloul then began thus with poetical words. "By reason of my ignorance, I have married two wives. And why do you complain, O husband of two wives? I say to myself, I shall be like a lamb between them. I shall take my pleasure upon the bosoms of my two sheep. And I have become like a ram between two female jackals. Days follow upon days, and nights upon nights. And their yoke bears me down during both days and nights. If I am kind to one, the other gets vexed. And so I cannot escape from these two furies. If you want to live well and with a free heart, and with your hands unclenched, then do not marry. If you must wed, then marry one wife only. One alone is enough to satisfy two armies." When Mamun heard these words, he began to laugh, till he nearly tumbled over. Then, as a proof of his kindness, he gave to Bahloul his golden robe, a most beautiful vestment. Bahloul went in high spirits toward the dwelling of the Grand Vizier. Just then Hamdana looked from the height of her place in her palace in that direction, and saw him. She said to her negress, "By the God of the temple of Mecca, there is Bahloul dressed in a fine gold work robe. How can I manage to get possession of the same?" The negress said, "Oh, my mistress, you would not know how to get hold of that robe." Hamdana answered, "I have thought of a trick whereby to achieve my ends, and I shall get the robe from him." "Bahloul is a sly man," replied the negress. People think generally that they can make fun of him, but for God, it is he who really makes fun of them. Give up the idea, mistress of mine, and take care that you do not fall into the snare which you intend setting for him. But Hamdana again said, it must be done. She then sent her niggers to Bahloul to tell him that he should come to her. He said, by the blessing of God, to him who calls you, you shall make answer, and went to Hamdana. Hamdana welcomed him and said, O Bahloul, I believe you come to hear me sing. He replied, most certainly, O my mistress. You have a marvelous gift for singing. I also think that after having listened to my songs, you will be pleased to take some refreshments. Yes, said he. Then she began to sing admirably, so as to make people who listened die with love. After Bahloul had heard her singing, refreshments were served, he ate, and he drank. Then she said to him, I do not know why, but I fancy you would gladly take off your robe to make me a present of it. And Bahloul answered, Oh, my mistress, I have sworn to give it to her whom I have done as a man does to a woman. Do you know what that is, Bahloul, said she. Do I know it, replied he. I, who am instructing God's creatures in that science. It is I who make them copulate in love, who initiate them in the delights a female can give. Show them how one must caress a woman, and what will excite and satisfy her. Oh, my mistress, who should know the art of coition if it is not I? Hamdana was the daughter of Mamun and the wife of the Grand Vizier. She was endowed with the most perfect beauty, of a supreme figure and harmonious form. No one in her time surpassed her in grace and perfection. Heroes, on seeing her, became humble and submissive, and looked down to the ground for fear of temptation. So many charms and perfections had God lavished upon her. Those who looked steadily at her were troubled in their mind, and oh, how many heroes imperiled themselves for her sake. For this very reason, Bahloul had always avoided meeting her for fear of succumbing to the temptation, and apprehensive for his peace of mind, had never, until then, been in her presence. Bahloul began to converse with her. Now he looked at her, and anon bent his eyes to the ground, fearful of not being able to command his passion. Hamdana burnt with desire to have the robe, and he would not give it up without king paid for it. What price do you demand? She asked, to which he replied, coition, O apple of my eye. You know what that is, O Bahloul, said she. By God, he cried, no man knows woman better than I. They are the occupation of my life. No one has studied all their concerns more than I. I know what they are fond of. For learn, O lady, mine, that men choose different occupations according to their genius and their bent. The one takes, the other gives. This one sells, the other buys. My only thought is of love and the possession of beautiful women. I heal those that are lovesick and carry a solace to their thirsting vaginas. Hamdana was surprised at his words and the sweetness of his language. Could you recite me some verses on this subject, she asked. Certainly, he answered. Very well, O Bahloul. Let me hear these words you have to say. Let me hear what you have to say. Bahloul recited as follows. Men are divided according to their affairs and doings. Some are always in spirits and joyful, others in tears. There are those whose life is restless and full of misery, while, on the contrary, others are steeped in good fortune, always in luck's happy way, and favored in all things. I alone am indifferent to all such matters. What care I for Turkmens, Persians, and Arabs? My whole ambition is in love and coition with women. No doubt, no mistake about that. If my member is without vulva, my state becomes frightful. My heart then burns with a fire which cannot be quenched. Look at my member erect. There it is. Admire its beauty. It calms the heat of love and quenches the hottest fires by its movement in and out between your thighs. Oh, my hope and my apple. Oh, noble and generous lady. If one time will not suffice to appease thy fire, I shall do it again, so as to give satisfaction. No one may reproach thee, for all the world does the same. But if you choose to deny me, then send me away. You chase me away from thy presence without any fear or remorse. Yet bethink thee, and speak and augment not my trouble. But, in the name of God, forgive me and do not reproach me. While I am here, let thy words be kind and forgiving. Let them not fall upon me like sword blades, keen and cuffing. Let me come to you and do not repel me. Let me come to you like one that brings drink to the thirsty. Hasten and let my hungry eyes look at thy bosom. Do not withhold from me love's joys, and do not be bashful. Give yourself up to me. I shall never cause you trouble, even if you were to fill me with sickness from head to foot. I shall always remain as I am, and you as you are, knowing that I am the servant and you are the mistress ever. Then shall our love be veiled. It shall be hidden for all time, for I keep it a secret, and I shall be mute and muzzled. It is by God's will that everything happens, and He has filled me with love. But today, my luck is ill. Uh, While Hamdana was listening, she nearly swooned and set herself to examine the member of Bahloul, which stood erect like a column between his thighs. Now she said to herself, I shall give myself up to him, and now, no, I would not. During this uncertainty, she felt a yearning for pleasure deep within her parts privy, and Iblis made flow from her natural parts of moisture, the forerunner of pleasure. She then no longer combated her desire to cohabit with him, and reassured herself by the thought, if this Bahloul, after having had his pleasure with me, should divulge it, no one will believe his words. She requested him to divest of his robe and to come into her room, but Bahloul replied, I shall not undress until I have sated my desire, O apple of my eye. Then Hamdana rose, trembling with excitement for what was to follow. She undid her girdle and left the room, Bahloul following her thinking, am I really awake, or is this a dream? He walked after her till she had entered her boudoir. Then she drew herself on a couch of silk, which was rounded on the top like a vault of back, lifted her clothes up over her thighs, trembling all over, and all the beauty which God had given her was in Bahloul's arms. Bahloul examined the belly of Hamdana, round like an elegant cupola. His eyes dwelt upon a navel which was like a pearl in a golden cup, and descending lower down, there was a beautiful piece of nature's workmanship, and the whiteness and shape of her thighs surprised him. Then he pressed Hamdana in a passionate embrace, and soon saw the animation leave her face. She seemed almost unconscious. She had lost her head, and holding Bahloul's member in her hands, excited and fired him more and more. Bahloul said to her, why do I see you so troubled and beside yourself? And she answered, leave me, O son of a debauched woman. By God, I am like a mare in heat, and you continue to excite me still more with your words. And what words? They would set any woman on fire, if she was the purest creature in the world. You will insist in making me succumb by your talk and your verses. Bahloul answered, Am I then not like your husband? Yes, she said, but a woman gets heat on account of the man as a mare on the account of the horse, whether the man be the husband or not. With this difference, however, that the mare gets lusty only at certain periods of the year and then only receives the stallion, while a woman can always be made rampant by words of love. Both these dispositions have met within me, and as my husband is absent, make haste, for he will soon be back. Bahloul replied, Oh, my mistress, my loins hurt me and prevent me mounting upon you. You take the man's position and then take my robe and let me depart. Then he laid himself down in the position the woman takes in receiving the man, and his verge was standing up like a column. Hamdana threw herself upon Bahloul, took his member between her hands, and began to look at it. She was astonished at its size, strength, and firmness, and cried, Here we have the ruin of all women and the cause of many troubles. O Bahloul, I never saw a more beautiful dart than yours. Still, she continued keeping hold of it, and rubbed its bead against the lips of her vulva, till the latter part seemed to say, O member coming to me. Then Bahloul inserted his member into the vagina of the Sultan's daughter, and she, settling down upon his engine, allowed it to penetrate entirely into her firmness till nothing more could be seen of it, not the slightest trace. And she said, How lascivious has God made woman, and how indefatigable after her pleasures. She then gave herself up to an up and down dance, moving her bottom like a riddle to the right and left, and forward and back. Never was there such a dance as this. The Sultan's daughter continued to ride upon Bahloul's member till the moment of enjoyment arrived, and the attraction of the vulva seemed to pump the member as though by suction, just as an infant sucks the teat of the mother. The acme of enjoyment came to both simultaneously, and each took the pleasure with avidity. Okay. Then Hamdana seized the member in order to withdraw it, and slowly, hold on, the quality of state of being added, affinity. Okay, so within affinity. Then Hamdana seized the member in order to withdraw it, and slowly she made it come out, saying, This is the deed of a vigorous man. Then she dried it and her own private parts with a silk handkerchief and rose. Bahloul also got up and prepared to depart, but she said, And the robe? And he answered, Why, O mistress, you have been riding me, but still want a present? But, said she, did you not tell me that you could not mount me on account of the pains in your loins? It matters but little, said Bahloul. The first time it was your turn, the second will be mine, and the price for it will be the robe, and then I will go. Hamdana thought to herself, As he began, he may now go on. Afterwards he will go away. So she laid herself down. But Bahloul said, I shall not lie with you unless you undress entirely. Then she undressed until she was quite naked, and Bahloul fell into an ecstasy on seeing the beauty and perfection of her form. He looked at her magnificent thighs and rebounding navel, at her belly vaulted like an arch, her plump breasts standing out like hyacinths. Very descriptive, nice flower too. Her neck was like a gazelle's, the opening of her mouth like a ring, her lips fresh and red like a gory saber. Her teeth might have been taken for pearls, and her cheeks for roses. Her eyes were black and well slit, and her eyebrows of ebony resembled the rounded flourish of the noun traced by the hand of a skillful writer. Her forehead was like the full moon in the night. Baloo began to embrace her, to suck her lips, and to kiss her bosom. He drew her fresh saliva and bit her thighs. So he went on till she was ready to swoon and could scarcely stammer, and her eyes became veiled. Then he kissed her vulva, and she moved neither hand nor foot. He looked lovingly upon the secret parts of Hamdana, beautiful enough to attract all eyes with their purple center. Baloo cried, "Oh, the temptation of man!" And he still bit her and kissed her till her desire was roused to its full pitch. Her sighs came quicker, and grasping his member with her hands, she made it disappear in her vagina. Then it was he who moved hard, and she who responded hotly, the overwhelming pleasure simultaneously calming their fervor. Then Baloo got off her, dried his pestle in her mortar, and prepared to retire. But Hamdana said, "Where's the robe?" "You mock me, O Bahloul," he answered. "Oh, my mistress, I shall only part with it for a consideration. You have had your dues and I mine. The first time was for you, the second time for me, and now the third time shall be for the robe." This said, he took it off, folded it, and put it in Hamdana's hands, who, having risen, lay down again on the couch and said, "Do what you like." Forthwith, Baloo threw himself upon her and with one push completely buried his member in her vagina. Then he began to work as with a pestle, and she to move her bottom until both again did flow over at the time. Then he rose from her side, left his robe, and went. The nigger said to Hamdana, "O my mistress, is it not as I have told you? The law is a bad man, and you could not get the better of him. They consider him as a subject for mockery, but before God he is making fun of them. Why would you not believe him?" Hamdana turned to her and said, "Do not tire me with your remarks. It came to pass what has come to pass, and on the opening of each vulva is inscribed the name of the man who is to enter it, right or wrong, for love or for hatred. If Balor's name had not been inscribed on my vulva, he would have never got into it, had he offered me the universe with all it contains." As they were thus talking, there came a knock at the door. The negress asked who was there, and in the voice of Balor it said, "It is I." Hamdana, in doubt as to what the buffoon wanted, got frightened. The negress asked Balor what he wanted, and received a reply, "Bring me a little water." She went out of the house with a cup full of water. Balor drank and then let the cup slip out of his hands, and it was broken. The negro shut the door upon Bahloul, who sat himself down on the threshold. The buffoon, being thus close to the door, the visor, Hamdana's husband, arrived, who said to him, "Why do I see you here, O Bahloul?" And he answered, "O my lord, I was passing through the street when I was overcome by a great thirst. A negress came and brought me a cup of water. The cup slipped from my hands and got broken. Then our lady Hamdana took my robe, which the Sultan our master had given me as indemnification." Then said the visor, "Let him have his robe." Hamdana at this moment came out, and her husband asked her whether it was true that she had taken the robe in payment for the cup. Hamdana then cried, beating her hands together, "What have you done, O Bahloul?" He answered, "I have talked to your husband the language of my folly." "Talk to him, you, the language of thy wisdom." She, enraptured with the cunning he had displayed, gave him back his robe, and he departed. Oh, it was a very good tale. I go back, man.